This is Redemption, an actual play podcast set in the Star Wars role-playing game system.
Welcome to a little bonus episode. We haven't done one of these in a long time. We used to do what we call the behind the screen. I'm Chris, the GM. Luckily for me tonight, I've got two amazing guests. I'll go ahead and let them introduce themselves. I'll start with everybody's favorite voice. We'll go ahead and go with you, Kaylee. How are you doing?
I seriously thought you were going to introduce Michael. I was not ready when you said favorite voice.
I assumed he was introducing Kaylee.
See, we're all down on ourselves. We need to stop doing that. So, hi, this is Kaylee. I voice Bree starting in season 7 and Corell for the first 6 seasons of Redemption.
Awesome. And joining us is, you already heard his voice, so say hi to everybody, Michael.
Hi, everybody. It's Michael. I play Ensantazi on the show, and looking forward to having this little chat discussion thing we're about to do.
Awesome. Me too. Just so everybody knows, we haven't done one of these in a long time just because, the world got a little weird for a while. And because of that, we just wanted to get, the three of the founding members of the podcast together and just kind of talk about our journey over, are we at 6 years now?
We're about a little over 6.5 years now.
Yeah. Whew. Time flies.
How many seasons are we at? I lose count.
We're in season 7, yes. We're approaching the end of season 7, I think, whenever we figure out where this one ends.
Who knows?
Which, when people listen to this, it's probably the end of season 7, actually. So,
and what's interesting is that, if you had asked me years ago if we would make it to 7 seasons, I probably would have said maybe not.
Well, I remember when we started doing this, we kind of threw out the idea because it was just, it kind of sounds like fun, God, what is the name of that podcast? D'Amato and Company.
Oh, yeah, Campaign.
Because Campaign was doing it, and we're like, hey, we could do more of a serious story and, turn it into something. And we're like, that'll work. And I remember people telling me most people pod fade after 6 months. And if you make it past 6 months, you're doing really well. And I was like, we're going to make it to a year. You watch. Yeah. I don't think we actually know when to stop.
I mean, that might be part of it. It might just simply be that we refused to give up when we should have. I mean, it's hard to say at this point. I think what we always said was that as long as we felt like we'd have a story to tell, we'll continue doing this.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We'll continue playing with these characters and continue playing in this world as long as there's still stories to tell. And I don't think we've hit a point yet where we were like, okay, I think we're good.
I agree. To one point, though, I mean, I'm going to put an agree with an asterisk because, Mike, for me personally, Corell's story was done at the end of season 6, which is why I retired her.
Mm-hmm.
A major plot point for the Star Wars universe. And I thought she's going to have these other adventures, but they're taking her away. And it's kind of her story's done. And, maybe we'll meet her again someday. Maybe we'll hear something about that. But yeah, after six seasons and almost 6 years of that's a long time running. I believe we are still the longest running and still current running Star Wars actual play podcast. So
we've tried to confirm that in every possible way we can, and I think we've exhausted our options at this point. I think we're just assuming that that's still the case. I don't think we found an AP that's been running longer than ours.
No, definitely not an AP that has a single game, like a single story game. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of them that have hopped over to other game stories, game systems, different, completely different eras, that kind of thing. But yeah, we're stubbornly plowing on. We've made it through the Clone Wars. Now we got to get all the way to Return of the Jedi. You guys up for the next 18 years or so?
It's funny you mentioned that. So I'm doing a guest spot with the Dicey Cantina crew and a couple of other of the Star Wars podcasts that we kind of are affiliated with. And we are playing as Bothans for the retrieval of the plans for the second Death Star. I mentioned to our castmate and co-star Andy that I would like to play one of her children, one of Quinth's children in this adventure.
Okay, that's awesome.
So I figured that, it's far enough ahead in the future that, it wouldn't interfere with anything we're doing. It would be a fun little tie back to Redemption and like what we've got going on in this crossover campaign.
Plus, Quinth has like 800 children or something like that. So,
yeah, Quinth has a number of kids, as Bothans are wont to do, and especially in our telling, it sounds like there's very much it takes a village type of atmosphere to raise the Bothan kids. So I reached out to Andy, and Andy got back to me with some information about some of Quinth's children, and then Andy started like talking about, well, maybe if this kid did this, then maybe that would happen. And I said, well, I got to tell you, Andy, it's possible that whichever child we pick may not survive this mission to get the information. And then, so what's funny is Andy being Andy was like, oh, well, the Quinth is already worried about one of her kids dying, and this could really like mess with her in the game. I'm like, Andy, dear, like we are talking, we're not even at New Hope yet. Like we're not even remotely close to when this would be happening in our timeline. We're playing in the future in this one. And she's like, yeah. And Andy was like, just again, I'm not great with timelines. I was like, Andy, it's cool. Don't worry about it. We're good. I just want you to be aware that there may be a bad end for this particular child of Quinth. So it was a funny little, when we talk about the timelines, like, where we're at compared to where the major Star Wars stories have gone, we've barely scratched the surface of Redemption's involvement in, the timeline, canon or not.
there's a large gap in the timeline between Clone Wars and New Hope. Or I guess Rebels is probably the next iteration, really. So,
Rebels and Rogue One and then New Hope, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's very fun and interesting how Andy's basically creating Bothan culture in our story.
Yeah, she loves that.
There's really not a lot I could find online that talked about it other than Spynet. And she just kind of keeps creating it as we go, which I have to keep making notes on.
That's one thing that Lucas and Disney and the canon has been not great with in particular, is giving very much background on many of the major alien races. And most of the information that is out there is considered Legends information. It's not necessarily considered canon, right? Unless it's brought up in like one of the official books or one of the official movies, it's not canon. So the fact that there's not much to go on for Bothans, I mean, Andy's really grabbed that freedom and straight up run with it.
It's been fun. I've been very intrigued with it. Curious to see how many spouses that Quinth really has had and how many children they have and how that's going to work.
The thing that's fun about it with Andy is because of how she's playing Quinth. When Quinth tells you something, you're not quite sure if she's really being honest about it or she's playing you or something like that. Because, there are times we've caught Quinth said something and we've been like, Quinth, you said this completely opposite last week. It's like, oh, no, I didn't. And that's just how Quinth is being played, and it's kind of awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Since we're kind of the three of the founders of this, it's been interesting how Andy, kind of stepped in, and then, after that we had May step in. I don't know about for you guys, but for me, it was really role-playing with them and really getting intrigued with their gaming style and just meshing with personalities.
Well, those two, it's really interesting with both of them. They both came on as guests. They came on to do voices. Andy came on as Isla originally because Tazi needed a girlfriend, and it worked really well. She made the character her own. She really fell in love with it, and then she grew beyond it, and that was great. May, the same thing. May came on to play Nacinda, and we were like, hire her also. We're finding these wonderful people to come in as guests and then need them to stay on because we're enjoying them so much.
Well, I mean, hire being a funny word because Lord knows we can't pay anybody because we don't make any money. This is purely a passion project for all of us.
Well, we do have some wonderful Patreons who do give us some money, and that really helps offset like all of our costs and everything
The bills,
like that.
yes, the bills we have for sure.
That is nice. So we love you, Patreons. We really do.
We really do.
So what do you think is one of the more, I guess, memorable things that really has stuck out with the whole podcasting thing? Not just in the story. I mean, just what are the things that you really look back on and go, this is why we keep podcasting?
I mean, I would have to say that it's a passion project. It's something we enjoy. We would be playing this game. We've talked about this before. We'd be playing whether or not we were making a podcast because we are enjoying the game so much, like the group of us. I think the reaction that we do get from listeners who reach out to let us know like what they think of episodes, or when a twist happens, or when something funny happens and someone brings it up or mentions it, that's all kind of icing on the cake. It's motivational, right? It helps us continue to keep that energy level up for making this into something that other people can listen to and enjoy.
I'd agree with a lot of that. But especially, I mean, the fact that we're still playing this, we do play it a lot, and we play constantly because we enjoy the game. We love the story we're telling, and we love the story we're telling, and we love playing at the table with each other. We have a good rhythm going. We're friends outside of the game. It's wonderful. Yeah, we tend to have like a state of the podcast meeting once a year where we kind of talk about everything, and and one of the past couple of years is then, are we still good with continuing playing this? And universally, it's like everybody is like, even if we don't record and put it out, we're going to be playing. Everybody is 100% on board with that, and that's just wonderful. For me as the editor, because I do a lot of the behind the scenes work, putting the episodes together and putting the sounds together, for me, sometimes it's a little feast or famine, because when I put out an episode, it's all worth it. But when I'm in the middle of that, 6 to 8 hours that it takes to put an episode together, it's kind of like, oh my God, why am I giving up my social life for this? But then somebody will be on our Discord and say something really nice, or say that they love the episode, or like we just got a review from Tuesday from Not a Sleemo on iTunes. Just says, amazing Star Wars podcast. I recommend listening. There's people like that, or Almighty Ellen, who says, love you guys. Thank you for the content. You guys are a lifesaver. And that being said, port and starboard. Port has 4 letters. Okay, thank you, Almighty Ellen. That's very nice that you put that in the review. But I love hearing the stories from the fans and hearing that they're enjoying our stories, because the stories, we enjoy telling the story, and we're going to do that whether you guys like it or not. It's just more fun for us, or for me especially, if you guys are enjoying it too.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting distinction because, lots of people play at a table, play online with friends, and there is a distinction between doing that for fun around a table and producing it as a piece of entertainment, right? Not just the time involved in editing, and not just the time involved in making it a final product, but also the things that you learn about how to play the game for entertainment in a way more than just for around the table laughs, right? There is significantly less table talk during our game than a regular game that we would play, around the table with friends. And I think that's because we try to stay focused on making the most of the time that we have together to tell as much of the story as we can together while we're playing. And those are it's not a derogatory thing. It's just something that happens because we've been doing this so long that we get together, we spend our 5 or 10 minutes getting caught up with everybody, and then, or 30 minutes, depending on the day, and then we kind of hop into it, and we're all kind of on point. We might have our occasional silly moments or things that Kaylee has to cut because we go way too far off topic about something. But for the most part, we try to stay focused on playing the game, telling the story. And, I think a big part of that is just that we're all so used to the fact that this isn't just a regular table game. It is, we are making something for others' consumption, right? For people to listen to in their cars or when they're working out or at work, or just hanging out around the house. In all the different ways you would listen to Redemption. I'm sure there are many others, but we certainly don't have to try to list them all here. There's no possible way to do that.
Just as a random side note, just to throw this out there, I was looking at the reviews, and I was looking at the show listing, and it's like we have 171 episodes, and if that averages out to 40, let's say 45 minutes an episode, that means we have over 100 hours of Redemption.
Oh no, we joked about it before. We have in the past in some of our conversations, but if we were a television show, we'd certainly be getting syndication money.
Hey, Disney Plus, look us up.
Yeah, don't hold your breath.
Yeah, I don't know that I want to be on television, but I'm sure you can find somebody to animate some wonderful versions of us.
There you go. We're
for the
voice actors.
game.
Yeah. Critical Role can do it. We can do it.
They might have a few more connections than we do, but
yeah, just a smidge. Just a smidge.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I've learned and keeps me coming back for this is how much I've learned and keep learning, not just as a player, but as a GM. Like, I've gotten to meet so many people through the podcast that have given me ideas, talked to me about game mastering. I feel like I'm a way better GM than I was even when we started. And I think my confidence has gone way up as well, just because I've listened to myself talk. I've listened to myself improvise. I've listened to so many times where that's the point in the story where my notes went out the window and I started writing things down as we were going.
And we do that to you way too often. I apologize for that.
No, but that, I think that also adds to what the show is. There are lots of actual plays and lots of stories that get told out there in the world that are very scripted and very like, here is our story outline. We're going to hit these beats no matter what. And I would love to say that even within the last couple of years, we've tried to kind of corral ourselves a bit. But for the most part, most of our play really is spur of the moment. We have storylines and things that will happen or things that we're working on. But Chris is very good at taking those little side moments or comments that might not lead anywhere and turning them into something. Oftentimes because we turned them into something in our conversations in character. But Chris has become very, very good at just kind of running with that and making things up on the fly. Or, again, 2 or 3 sentences from Kaylee or from Andy regarding something small that impacted their character. And boom, suddenly we have a side story that we're running down, for an episode or two. Or, even coming back to multiple times in the course of a season or two.
Oh, for sure.
That's a skill, Chris, that you've grown by leaps and bounds with that particular skill since we started this.
Another thing that, and I agree with you completely, another thing that's really interesting for me is you have been running this game almost religiously every 2 to 4 weeks for over 6 years now. GMs don't usually last that long. I mean, normally breaks are needed and time off, and you've been rock solid more often than we have. So,
well, to be fair, we have taken our share of hiatuses.
Yes, to be fair,
we've had those breaks in our recordings or season breaks or what have you.
I may or may not have been forced to take some. Yes,
no, but at the end of the day. Like you said, Chris keeps coming back to that seat. Like we haven't really had. I think the closest thing we've had to a guest GM is when Andy actually stepped in to run the D&D episode that we did. Really?
Angela.
Oh, that's true. Angela. I can't forget Angela. You're absolutely right. Angela did step in.
Angela did an amazing job.
Angela did do an amazing job. Angela, I apologize if you hear this. You are not forgettable. That's just my bad memory. Everyone else was very much on point in making sure I remembered that you were also a guest GM for us. And I'm sorry.
She's done cussing you out now.
Oh no, she'll cuss me out. She will message me and cuss me out herself if she feels that she needs to. Angela certainly.
None of us will either forget her or Kazi.
Oh my gosh. Billy and Angela, both wonderful additions. We've met so many wonderful people in the community, in the role-playing game community, that have been a part of this show also. Angela and Billy being two very big individuals that carried some significant roles in our storylines.
I would love to have them back again someday soon.
The list of people that we would like to bring on continues to grow and continues to grow. I know I've had a couple of people reach out to me, and I say, I jokingly, I'm like, we'll put you on the list because, there are times when we need to have somebody come in to do voice work for us or play an NPC or someone notable or even someone small, a small part in our tale. But I also know that with the world being what it is, oftentimes those things are challenging. It's challenging to get time to record with people, especially because we prefer to record live with people. I would rather play something with someone than just ask for, hey, I'm going to transcribe this. Can you send a voiceover of this for us? Can you record these lines for us? That's wonderful when it works, but playing with some of these people is just so much more fun and across the board for everybody, I think.
Yes, I 100% agree with you. The only, I guess, negative to that in a way is sometimes can be a lot of work to bring a guest on, and people don't realize, for like me personally, before I bring a guest on, I usually sit down with them for quite a while, and we talk about what the character is. I want them to kind of develop the personality of the character, but I also want to give that character specific goals in the story. Like, here's where I'm trying to use this NPC to help guide the story in a direction or give them a direction to go. I hate using the term push, drive, railroad, whatever, because I don't like to do that. But if I can help them understand what the NPC's ultimate goal is in the story, can sometimes be, a little bit of a work as we're developing the personality. Some people are phenomenal at it and jump right in. I think, for example, Billy, creating Kazi, that was 30 seconds of, could you create the most annoying character to hit on this character and just be kind of a rival to Tazi? And within 2 seconds, he's created this Bith with the way kind of doing everything he can to be the opposite of Tazi.
Oh God!
And I guess, yeah, and I guess when I say the opposite of Tazi, I don't mean big buff, muscular guy. It's just kind of almost a bumbling character that.
Like if Lando had no game.
That's a great way of describing him. Yeah, all the confidence in the world, just can't make the layup. That's a sports ball reference for those that didn't catch it.
Hey, you know what? I feel that 100% in my soul. I am that reference.
Yeah, having guests is wonderful. I mean, we've had a lot of good guests over the years. And the way I said that makes it sound like this is a retrospective and we're done. It's not true. Billy and Angela being some of the most memorable of all. Our favorite Mandalorian, Justin. He's been wonderful. Even the people, we've had other people who've, touched the show and never played with us, like Tracy, who does our voice intros now. She became, we do.
Tracy, you're wonderful and we love you.
I met Tracy at a Catacon. It's like, cool. This was awesome. And she's just the sweetest person. We love her to death.
It's funny, Kaylee, you mentioned that, and it brings us kind of to one of the other things that keeps me going in doing the show, and that's that year after year, we continue to meet more and more wonderful people in the role-playing and actual play communities and the podcasting communities that we form these attachments and relationships with, and we can continue to come back and, work on small projects with, or just play fun off the mic, off content games with, like things that we can do, people that we've met. I mean, my personal, it's the best way to put this. Yeah, my personal circle of gamers and people in the industry and people in the community that I know specifically because of this show that I never would have met without us doing Redemption. That number is honestly incalculable. That number is incalculable. I think I'm saying it right. Am I saying it right? Okay. That number is incalculable. I know so many people now, and I've gotten to know so many folks, and a lot of it is related to just doing what we do and running into people at conventions or meeting people online that do something similar or being parts of Discords. I can still remember when we originally joined the RPG Academy, and suddenly our little circle went from being the five of us to the four of us at the time, the four of us to like 26 people that we were regularly in contact with, and all we were doing was really talking about podcasting and role-playing games and board games and all the other nerdy stuff that makes us who we are. And that just grew exponentially, like you tell two people and then you meet two more people and you meet two more people.
And so on.
Then you go to your first convention and somebody that listens to your show walks up to you, finds out who you are, and totally fans out on you. And it's the weirdest feeling, but again, it's those people that you meet, that those relationships have also made this entire process worth it. Whenever we decide to stop, whenever that end is, those relationships will keep going.
Oh, for sure.
That's just part of the legacy that the show leaves for everybody that's involved.
Absolutely. Through those friendships, we've had some fantastic moments. I remember Michael from the RPG Academy asking me to sit on a GM panel. And I remember going, "Oh my gosh, Kaylee, what do I do? What do I do? I've never done one of these. Quick, there's a smaller con. You should do one with me so I can see what it's like before I go on the big stage with, Michael over here." And then we ended up doing one at a little convention here and inviting, some people who have a different opinion on GMing than us. And it was very interesting for me to sit back and hear them go, "Oh no, you should definitely tell the players exactly where they're going." And I'm on the other side of the table going, kind of? Maybe you should let the players kind of help drive and guide the story too. Don't fall in love with your own story, fall in love with theirs. And I remember that. And then, flash forward to a few months later, I'm sitting there with Michael and he's like, "Well, it's okay to kind of let the players guide the story." And I'm like, "Yeah, what he said." And then I felt like all I did for the rest of that whole panel was just go, "Yeah, what he said. Yeah, I'm with him. I agree with him." And I was like, wow, it was just so unique for me to have the two polar opposite experiences. And now, Michael and I have done a couple of those GM panels where we've got a little bit of a flow, and he'll start to talk about something and I can kind of elaborate on the idea.
And now, again, thanks to that relationship, you're a frequent collaborator with Michael on RPG Academy shows.
Every other Wednesday, we do detention together where we play these little games with where have our fingers been and 10 things. And they're improv games. Don't make this wrong. They're improv games. We're not really good at them. I'm not going to say we're good at these games, but we enjoy them and we have a good time. It's very much just a couple of friends getting together and chit-chatting with whoever jumps on with us.
And it's like Kaylee and I are involved with the Identico folks, which, we met initially through our relationship with the RPG Academy. And now every other Monday, Kaylee and I are in their flagship. I say flagship because it's
we're their flagship
right now. We're the flagship. We are the flagship game. It's called Chaos Inc., and that's on the Identico Twitch channels every other Monday. And, we've been able to be involved in that because of, again, those relationships that got formed through doing what we do here. You've been able to do some things with Steph outside of that show. And like we've both done some things with the Identico group outside of that show as well, for some of their other content that they do. And again, it's just kind of like this little, it's like you throw a rock in a pond, right? And you get that little ripple wave that just keeps going and going and going and going. At some point, it will eventually stop. But right now, it's just like that wave just keeps going. We just keep kind of getting, pulled into or asked to do other small things. And it's just so fulfilling.
Or we pull people into our little projects.
Exactly.
Like, I did the whole story arc with Kyle, good friend of mine. He's in quite a few other shows, but he and I did the whole 4X story where we had ultimately, one of us was falling to the dark side, but as we were playing the game, neither of us really knew whose character was going to end up falling to the dark side. And that was just a project I had wanted to do for a long time. And yes, I stole that from different samurai games that are out there, having a duel, only I changed it to Star Wars and found a way to make the FFG rules fit. And that was just a nice, fun project for me to work on. And, I appreciated Kyle coming on and doing that with us. Well, with me. And, I look forward to doing more projects like that. Soon my son gets to go to college and I'll have a little more free time to do some stuff. But, being in his senior year, getting ready for him to go to college and getting all of his Eagle Scout stuff done, it's been a little bit of a busy last couple of years for me in a way. But, I hope to do some more of those projects once I have a little more free time. And maybe I'll ask one of you guys to join me in the next one.
Well, Chris, I'm usually a pretty easy sell, so.
Yeah. That one was just kind of a idea that Kyle and I had talked about. I can't remember what convention we were sitting at, and I kind of formed it with him, and I started this idea with Kyle. I should finish it. So, but we'll look forward to that kind of stuff. Maybe we'll get May to do one. May, if you're listening to this, come up with something cool you can run us through.
It'll be a candy heist.
I hear her head shaking. She's not. Yes.
May is a very good DM from what I hear. I've not gotten to play in anything with her myself because every time a game opens up, I feel like I've already got 2 games scheduled on top of each other or around each other, and I just can't do anything else. I can't pick up anything else at that point.
I also have heard May is a fantastic GM. She's got so many games going on right now, but I can only picture May running like Tiny Tina from Borderlands.
If I recall her saying she actually hates that character.
Oh, shit. Sorry, May.
I am probably the only person here who's never played the game, so that one goes right past me.
I can see what you're talking about, though, Kaylee, because I think May would do a wonderful job of playing a character like Tiny Tina.
Yeah.
But if I recall, I got to play through a number of the Borderlands parts of games with her and her husband. So May was very, vocal about her dislike of Tina.
That's fair. She will not be playing Tiny Tina's Wonderlands then, I'm guessing.
Probably not.
Oh.
It's hard to say. It's a Borderlands game, and they do enjoy those games.
I'm 100% on board for that. Anyway, we're getting far afield.
Yes, we are far afield.
Easy to do.
It happens with us all the time, which is why Kaylee has so much to edit whenever we get together.
Let's jump from our show. Let's jump over to what's actually going on in the actual Star Wars cinematic universe. I don't know if that's the right term. Canon? However you want to use that term.
Oh, you want to talk about like Disney Plus and all of that stuff?
Yeah.
High Republic, all those things.
What are your thoughts on things like The Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett, the up-and-coming
I'm going to let Kaylee go first.
Obi-Wan Kenobi series I hear is coming.
Okay, I'm going to start with that. You touched on that, and then I'm going to backtrack a little.
Okay.
Obi-Wan Kenobi apparently is coming out on May 22nd, and Disney, you have missed a huge train here. Why not release it on May the 4th? Seriously, it writes itself. Fire whoever you have. Call me. I'll do your promo stuff. That's fine. At the time we're recording this, we are 2 days from the Book of Boba Fett season finale, I believe. So we don't know what happens then. But one thing, and this is where I think where Mike and I, our opinions diverge a little bit. I really like what's been going on in Book of Boba Fett. I liked the Boba Fett setup. I agree that we should be having more Boba Fett in the Boba Fett show. How many times can I say Boba Fett in this phrase, in this little sentence? I don't know. But the tie-in to bring in the Mandalorian and to bring in Grogu and even to tie in Luke, what they're doing right now is they're tying together Clone Wars. So there's Ahsoka. Luke. So we're bringing in, the classic films. We're bringing in we're tying the eras together with this show. Now, yes, it is the Book of Boba Fett, and it probably should be focused more on Boba Fett, but I think I've got some pretty high hopes that Wednesday is going to wrap it up in a neat bow and, of course, give us a cliffhanger, which will take us into season 2, whenever that will be. Overall, I like where the Disney Plus universe has gone so far. I'm looking forward to the Ahsoka Tano show. I was not the biggest fan of Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka. I've gotten used to her. But I love Ahsoka as a character. She is probably my favorite Star Wars character that I have not created. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out. So,
Fair enough. I'll throw it over to you, Michael. Your thoughts on kind of how they're doing with the Disney Plus stuff?
I will preface what I'm going to say with the fact that I have enjoyed every bit of content that Disney Plus has produced, both for Star Wars and for Marvel. Book of Boba Fett is no
exception.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Book of Boba Fett is no exception. The thing that gives me pause is that I feel that the Book of Boba Fett had a very good opportunity to tell a kind of grimy crime story, much like a story, like an organized crime story or a mob story. And I feel like that opportunity has passed. I don't disagree with the character changes they've made to Boba Fett or the growth they've given him. But I do feel like that they are using the Boba Fett show, as again, Kaylee, you've mentioned, to kind of bridge some things, pull some things together. I feel like the last 2 episodes I would have preferred to have seen in The Mandalorian. And I would have loved The Mandalorian's appearance in the show to this point to literally be, hey, I'm going to come give you a hand, without all of the backstory that we have been given about what's currently going on with Mando. Because I feel like this show should be about Mando coming to help Boba and Boba's issues, less about what's happening in the background that's driving Mando, everything that's happening to Mando off camera, right? I feel like Mando should be like, yes, I'll come and I'll do it and I'll help him for free. And then the next episode is Mando showing up, and then they are having that briefing that they're having at the end of the last episode. Or toward the end of the last episode, they were having a briefing at Boba's palace, right? In his war room, talking about what they're going to do. Like, to me, I wanted the Boba Fett show to focus more on him and his story and and like the world around Boba Fett, and less about the world of the Mando. And that's what the last 2 episodes have 100% been about. So that's been the entire time the Boba Fett show's been on. That's been like the one thing that's sitting on my shoulder. Like, I want more of Boba's story, because Mando has his own show, and all the stuff that revolves around Mando can be told in that show for the most part, without necessarily. I would like to see more, for example, about Fennec Shand. Like, we barely know anything about Fennec, and the show has barely given us anything about Fennec, but she's literally his lieutenant, and we know almost nothing about her.
I actually agree with everything you're saying, and I think that
we've talked about this. Like, so this is. I think that Kaylee and I have had these conversations.
I think that they did a big disservice. What they should have done was use the Book of Boba Fett season 1 to set it up, and then have Fennec reach out to Mandalorian as the Pike Syndicate came on board. Okay, oh shit, here's Cad Bane. We need some help. Fennec reaches out to Mando. End of season, pick up Mandalorian season. I've got a few things to do. He goes and does all his things, and Luke and Grogu and the armor and everything like that. And then the end of Mando season 3 brings it back into Boba Fett season 2.
And I will say this, and it's something that I've touched on, like, in conversation on our Discord with people, and that is that up until the last 2 episodes of Boba Fett, where they focused on the Mandalorian, I honestly felt like production values and effects and everything else like were kind of below the standard they had set with Mandalorian. I kind of felt like the backlot that they made for Mos Espa felt like a backlot.
Yeah,
it felt like a backlot. Whereas as soon as they focused on Mando, like, direction, production values like went through the roof. Like, everything looked awesome. Everything looked up to the Mandalorian standard. I'll say, like, putting my fingers in quotes. But suddenly, like, everything about the episodes like changed in how they were telling the story, in the direction that was involved, like, and even like the small stuff. And again, it's all the presentation. The world felt more like Star Wars. It felt like it had that grimy kind of used feel for the most part in those last 2 episodes that the rest of the season has been kind of missing.
I really give a lot of the credit for that to Bryce Dallas Howard.
Oh, for sure.
Holy crap. I mean,
for sure.
Just give her own damn show right now. Give her more give her movies. I don't care. She does great work, but that's neither here nor there.
So like that's been kind of my sticking point, is I felt like the first few episodes of the show, the first, I guess there's 7 episodes, right? So the first 4 episodes of the Boba Fett show felt less, they felt like they were lower quality than the other things that Disney has been putting out for Disney Plus and for Star Wars and for Marvel. And then the last 2 episodes, like, literally just they leaped back up to that high standard. And I wish we had that high standard for the first 4 episodes too.
I especially,
and that's a personal thing for me, though.
I know what you mean, especially the speeder chase with the biker gang.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
boy.
that looked like, seriously, somebody put that together for YouTube.
That looked like a car chase out of like a mid-'80s television show.
It needed some Waka Chewbacca, though.
I hate to tear it down, because again, I'm someone who typically, I love to love this stuff, and I don't usually watch these things with too much of a critical eye. It really did fall out of place. Like, I was even fine with the speeder gang being so like kind of multicolored and kind of like vibrant. I was like, okay, it's supposed to be a touch on like kind of youth culture. I get it. I understand that. I'm okay with it. I'm good with it. But that chase just was so ham-fisted and so, I hate to say poorly done, but it was poorly done. We've seen speeders in this universe, in their productions, and they haven't shown a single speeder ever going that slow ever for anything.
Not to mention they were that stable.
That any bystander on the street could have been running at top speed and jumped on it. at any point in that chase.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people weren't even really rushing to get out of the way. They were kind of like, oh, there's a speeder fight coming. I'm just going to amble over here.
If you guys could see
there they
that,
go.
Michael's doing a really good walk away from the microphone.
Really good amble. Yeah, I'm
amble.
ambling away from the microphone. Hey, and look, there's some weird fruit at that stand. I'm going to check that out. Oh, a speeder. And so, yeah, that was a little rough for me. I want to like this. I do like it, but I don't like it as much as I had hoped I would. And I think a lot of that comes down to those production values and the writing for the first 4 episodes. Like, it just didn't grab me as hard as I wanted it to. And I know that sounds odd, but
No, I 100% understand what you're saying. For me, they did a really good job of building the Mandalorian as a character. And at first I didn't like Grogu because I was really hoping for a story without the Force in it. He grew on me pretty quick. The character development they did in that whole 2 seasons was fantastic. Boba Fett, I felt like the writers just kind of ran out of ideas and just said, let's string this along.
it's like Mando Light.
Yeah.
Like,
They missed out on why'd the Hutts abandon the planet. I mean, you had the twins, but let's be honest, the twins were not scary Hutts. They ran away really fast. Who's Boba Fett going to scare you with? He's got one person there, but yet the twins ran away.
I think the twins were running from the Pikes.
Why are the Pikes here? What happened to
Because I think it's because of the power vacuum with Jabba dead.
yeah,
Right.
I feel like they tried
But they
to
never
explain
touch it.
that, but they didn't really explain it. Like, they
Yeah.
just kind of glossed over it.
They
And
hand-waved
there were so many opportunities for them to build this world that Boba is inhabiting on Tatooine now that I feel like they're glossing over in order to try and tell this Seven Samurai-ish, because again, Boba's gathering these people around him to defend Mos Espa against the Pikes.
Right.
Really. And I feel like, so that's kind of what it's building to, is this kind of Seven Samurai-ish Kurosawa feeling thing, or at least inspired bit. And
Is it? Or do you think this is where the Crimson Syndicate shows up? Is Maul still around? I don't think they offed him in Rebels.
No. So Maul, timeline-wise, Maul is gone.
Is he?
Yeah, Maul was technically offed by Kenobi post-Rebels, pre-New Hope.
Is that canon, though, or is that in one
Yes,
of the Legends?
that's
It is?
canon.
Okay.
That's canon. Yep, that's canon. That happened in the Rebels cartoon, so that's considered.
Okay, so, but right there could very easily explain the Hutts and the Pikes, with the Crimson Syndicate being gone and they're now having a fight. Why don't you just use that as Boba as a way of pulling people to him so he can reestablish something new?
I think that's maybe where they're going.
I hope so.
I mean, part of this too is the fact that they did definitely take a sea change with Boba, and like with what they did in Mandalorian, they kind of reintroduced Boba as this honorable former bounty hunter, right?
Yeah.
They were giving him more of a heroic take than they certainly previously had, because Boba didn't really get much explanation in any of the canon materials before that. Almost everything was books or comics, or it was considered like low-grade canon. It wasn't really...
Legends.
Yeah, it's all legend. Most of it was the pre-Disney stuff. And I'm sure a lot of that had to do with Tamira Morrison he wanted Boba to be a more of a heroic character, more of a heroic character. And I'm sure Disney wants that money too. Disney knows that, Boba Fett is a very popular character, and, if they can turn him into like a heroic character or give him more hero tendencies, they can certainly market him easier to kids than this ruthless bounty hunter, or this very skilled and very deadly bounty hunter.
I mean, I would actually posit that, there's 2 thoughts I had during this little last minute of conversation. Is, first of all, yeah, they're leaning into like a Seven Samurai thing, because Boba Fett has come back as this honorable elder warrior who's been tested and all this stuff, and he's now going. He's going to be the daimyo. You know, he's the leader of these ronin and these samurai, and it's really interesting how that's working. But if you think about it, without going into the legend, the books and stuff like that, Boba Fett was a really minor character. I mean, he tried to catch Han. He technically caught Han, and he brought him to Jabba. Then he got hit by a kid with a stick and ended up in a Sarlacc. That's Boba Fett. The fact that he's getting these stories is fan legacy, because everybody was focused on him for very bizarre reasons, but we like what we like, whatever. I was never a Boba Fett fan. I like Boba Fett, the character, as he is now, and the growth that I'm seeing and the more of the backstory I'm learning. So,
yeah. One thing that I guess in a way keeps me coming back is my wife is so entertained watching me watch the show, because a species will come and she'll look at me and I go, that's a weak way. They usually live on desert planets, blah, blah, blah. Hondo was famous in this. And she's like, okay. And then I'll say something is a little off, like the Gamorreans. Why do they not have axes? I'm like, why are they using these little knives? Where's their big axes? And she'll just laugh and go, really? She'll just laugh and go, really? Does it make that much of a difference? And I'm like, the Gamorreans always had big axes and loincloths, and I threatened to actually go out and get a Gamorrean costume and wear it so she could understand it.
Oh, that's a threat.
Yeah. She tried to call my bluff.
With them introducing Cad Bane in the last episode, I got really excited when I watched it, because I was like, this is the first real speaking live action Duro that they've shown in Star Wars. They've had Duro all over Star Wars for years, but live action, they've never had one with speaking lines that I can recall.
Oh, I fangirled so hard, and I thought the exact same thing. It's like, oh my God, Michael's going to be over the moon. There's a Duros who's actually alive and talking.
There's a Duro, and I feel like they did Cad Bane justice. I would say I wish the hat was a little bigger, but other than that, I feel like it was right. It felt right. And whenever they do the work of bringing one of those animated characters to live action, I feel like there's a little bit of me that's like, they get it. Like, they understand. They know what they've got. They know that these characters that they've written for years in this animated form should exist in the live action show. There should be a version of these characters that interacts with their world, the world they're making. And I love to see it. I love it whenever they tie that stuff back. And they've done a very good job of tying in a lot of the things that they've brought forward in some of the other shows, Clone Wars and Rebels. They've done a very good job of bringing that stuff into these TV shows that they're making with that long form storytelling, where they get to kind of explore things more than they can in a movie, for example, right?
So here's a fan question, and I'll answer last, just so I'm not leading anybody anywhere. If you had to take any animated character and bring them into the, live action Star Wars universe, what would that character be? I mean, we have BD1, so you can't choose him.
They're still not sure if that's BD1. It's a BD unit.
That's true.
But I like to think that it's BD1.
I agree.
Chris, I'll have you go first.
I was trying to think of one they hadn't already brought in. See, all the ones I'd want them to do aren't canon or haven't been done really as animated.
The one I would like to see, just to start it off then, technically I believe has been done live action, but it was in the very, very back. I might be wrong, but I think it was very, very in the background. I want Chopper from Rebels. I really do. I love that little homicidal droid.
I could see that. I don't know. See, part of it to me is that whole crew from Rebels. In my headspace, they made a noble sacrifice at some point.
Oh, they did. I mean, the end of... I have cried so hard at Rebels more than any other Star Wars movie or show.
I think I would love to see from the animated stuff that they've done so far, like from the things they've released. I think it's unlikely given maybe what's going on, but I'd love to see Rex. And I know it would be Tamura Morrison playing him again. I know that, but I would love to see. I loved Rex as a Clone War, as the captain. I loved the character. I thought he was a lot of fun in the show, and he was one of the. Of course, there have been a number of clones that kind of gave the clones personality, but Rex was one of those characters. Whenever they were on screen, whether it was in Clone Wars or Rebels, like I loved seeing what Rex was going to do.
Yeah. I will say this: there's one book that I would love to see them do that did have two characters from Clone Wars. I would love to see them do Dark Disciple. That was Quinlan Vos and Asajj Ventress. What happens to them? And it was a phenomenal book. I think that would be a really cool movie to make. It's going to be a little darker, or even a show. A little darker because they go... The fact that Quinlan Vos, he's a Jedi, but he's given permission to break a lot of rules. And then Asajj trying to, deal with her inner demons.
I would love to see them do a storyline that touched on the witches and on Ventress, and I'd love to see Ventress in live action also. I think that'd be awesome.
It would be very interesting. I've said it before. I would love if Disney went out and did just a series, maybe call it Lords of the Sith, and they just tell some of the backstory of the different Sith Lords. Like
an anthology series that just covers the Sith Lords?
Yeah. Let's talk about the first Sith Lord. Whoever first took the title of Darth, and then who took it from them, and, go up to, hit the Old Republic when Darth Bane overthrew the Brotherhood of Darkness and Lord Khan stuff, and made the Rule of Two, and dove into that. I think it'd be kind of neat.
They're exploring the High Republic a lot now, so we may learn more.
It'd be interesting.
Actually, I have to say I haven't really gotten into any of the High Republic stuff. I haven't read any of it. I haven't really kept up on that part of the continuity yet. So I don't really know much about it. Of course, I understand that it's, pre-Old Republic. I get it. But at the same time, I don't really know much about it myself. I understand there's a lot of interesting stuff happening there. There's a lot more, Star Wars is doing a lot more inclusivity work with the High Republic than they have in the past as well, which I think is certainly great for the fandom and great for the people out there that don't see themselves in the Star Wars universe very often.
Yeah, I guess that's really what I love about Star Wars is all the stories and all the possibilities and the way they tie things together.
We've even been known to throw in a couple of canon characters from time to time in our soirees into the universe, right?
A few from time to time.
I'm just saying.
The canon characters are lousy throughout Redemption. Skywalker, Ahsoka Tano, we had so many of them.
But I would say that we didn't use them in a very heavy-handed manner. They
were not.
Our adventures weren't rife with canon characters. We just happened to run into them from time to time, or have occasional interactions with them, or cause Andy to squee a little bit when someone would do a
hello there.
Yeah, very very much an Obi-Wan impersonation,
And I'll take the blame for that.
There's no blame to be
praise, not blame.
Yeah, I was the one that really pushed not to bring a lot of the canon characters in, mostly just because to me, it's a disservice if I can't put them in the story or portray them in a way I think that they deserve. And for me to portray Ahsoka, for example, I would love to be able to call, the actress who did the voice, Ashley
Eckstein.
Thank you, Ashley Eckstein, and just say, hey, I can't do this character justice. Please help. I'm sure her price tag is way over anything I could afford, but
Fun thing, Chris.
mm-hmm.
When we had that one scene with Ahsoka on the Star Destroyer with Carell
Mm-hmm.
after she lost her entire squadron. I actually tried reaching out to Ashley Eckstein to see if she would record a couple lines. I did not get an answer.
Yeah, but
I probably would have had to gone to her agent, and yes, it would have been probably expensive. But I took the shot just on the off chance that
I'm
would
sure
take pity.
she's very busy. But to me, maybe that's just a little bit of I don't want to say self-doubt, but I guess I nitpick myself enough on that stuff that I don't want to do a disservice to the character.
I think what you're getting at, or what you're saying, I don't think it's a negative. I feel like the fact that you take so much care and respect toward these characters and how they're portrayed on the show, I think that's one of the reasons that when we do encounter those characters, it feels like it fits. It feels like the characterizations that you're giving them work with what we know of those characters, even if the voices aren't necessarily right on point, right?
Right.
The characters themselves come through, and I think that's the important part. And you do such a good job, and the group as well has done such a good job of taking these characters that we all care about in such a deep way, and showing them the respect and reverence that they deserve in our story.
I agree with all of that. I would also say that I loved having those little moments, because everybody on the show knows this, but I am really careful about our continuity. I love knowing exactly where we were in the Clone Wars, and Chris would do that. Chris was great about this. It's like, this is where we're end up in the Clone Wars. This is the time. This is where we would be. This is who we might encounter. He wouldn't tell me these things, but it made sense. So I could watch our timeline grow as we progressed through the Clone Wars. And when we encountered these characters, it always felt really special. It was moments in time. We technically saved Obi-Wan Kenobi at one point on Ryloth. No big deal. We got that. But it tied us into the canon universe. Even if we're not canon, it still felt really good. It really made the story to me feel more real, if you can say that about a fictional universe.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. That makes sense. More involved.
I'd agree with that too. Yeah, I really do. It felt like, even though you'd never hear about any of the things that we did or any of the exploits that our group had in any of the canon materials, the adventures that we're having fit into those canon materials in such a way that they could have happened.
I will say that my biggest disappointment, not with our show, but with the Book of Boba Fett, was during the flashback scene where Grogu is being taken from the temple, that you didn't see a blue pair of female hands pick him up. Because in my mind, thanks to Andy's one offhand comment about a little green guy on the ship, I think Carell saved Grogu. So
maybe.
As far as I'm concerned, that's headcanon for Redemption.
Oh, 100%.
Well, it has been a fun conversation. I'm looking forward to what the future of our story has in store for all of us. I remember back when, we had just a random game day, and at the end of it, I said to you two, we should start a podcast. And you guys went, that's silly. And now here we are, 6 silly years later, Still telling the story we want to tell. And I couldn't be happier. I just want to say thank you to you two for, going on this journey with me and helping tell this story. And I really want to say thank you to everybody who does listen and interacts with us.
To just add to what Chris was saying, I also want to throw a big thank you out to one of our founding members, Nate. Nate portrayed the role of KO for us and with us, not for us. And KO was an integral part of our crew, of the group of characters that we had together, and getting us moving forward in the direction that we ended up in. Nate's certainly a talented role player, a talented voice actor, and hopefully we'll at some point be able to bring him back on when his time is a little more available for us.
Not to mention, I cannot get the phrase "a little column A, a little column B" out of my head.
Oh no, for sure. That
is in his accent. That will never go away. Thank you, Nate.
Never go away. And of course, we all three of us owe a big debt of gratitude and thanks to both Andy for coming on and taking on the role of Isla, and then of course growing through that role and into her own character with Quinth.
And in the same vein, we had May coming in to play Nacinda during season 5 as Carell's love interest and jokingly wife. It wasn't a joke to Carell after a little while, but hey, May sold that role and became such an integral part of our team and our crew that we definitely said, May, do you want to keep playing with us and make your own character? And the Zahn is just, I will say that sometimes when I do the editing of the episodes, it seems like a lot of work, but I laugh so hard at two things. One is the occasional A1 non sequitur, but it's at almost every single Zahn line. May's take on Zahn and her delivery on Zahn just makes me bust out laughing while I'm editing, and it makes it a delight. So we're really blessed to have had all these people go with us on this journey
and continue. Hopefully,
yeah.
Let's not forget all the fans all around the world that do listen to our show. I've met so many wonderful people, had so many conversations, and I've gotten to learn a little bit more about our tiny little rock we live on. Someday maybe we'll get to see the rest of the galaxy. Until then, keep listening to us. Thank you guys so much for everything we've gone through.
Thank you for everything we've gone through. Thank you for everything you've gone through as listeners. Thank you so much.
Thank you for everything we've all gone through.
I know what I meant to say.
Thank you for everything we've put you
Somewhere
through.
in my head it just stopped.
We appreciate you putting up with us.
Somewhere in my brain just stopped. Anyways.
This is how we end an episode.
Awkward
Good night,
wave.
This is, yeah. Awkward wave out.
Awkward
and
wave
freeze
out.
frame.
Damn it, stop. I can't do freeze frame when I'm looking at you and you do that face. Stop your recording now, please.
Redemption is played using the Star Wars role-playing system by Fantasy Flight Games and Lucas Books. You can look them up on Twitter at RedemptionPod, online at redemptionpodcast.com, or on any of the podcatcher apps such as iTunes or Google Play. You can support them at patreon.com/redemption. This is Andy attempting a Brie impersonation. Thank you.